Hi, welcome to my show where I get to interview amazing, talented people such as writers, um, filmmakers, activists, and today I have Christina Salem, who has a degree in journalism, but she also does something that I love, which is read tarot cards. Welcome, Christina.
Thank you.
Um, Christina is actually one of my best friends, my childhood friend Ida's daughter, and she has really an interesting story. She's part of a book that her stepfather just recently released, and again, she's going to be and with the tarot cards. She started a business called Salem's Vision. Yes, tell us about that.
So Salem's Vision started when I would always ask my mom what people are always coming to me and asking me for advice, and I don't want to have to go to school for 8 to 10 years to get a degree as a psychologist, and people are constantly counting on me for advice. So how can I make money off of this? And she's like, well, we've always had this gift, like we've always had this ability where we're able to console people, or people are able to confide in us, and we're able to give them direction in their life. And so Salem's Vision, she gave me the idea behind the name, but a friend of mine gifted me the deck of cards like a few years back, and or some time ago. And from there, I just began to practice and figure out what everything meant and what everything means in relation to the climate that we're in. And that's really where it took off. And I think like having the last name Salem is pretty cool. It goes hand in hand with what I'm going with. And
Well, and also one thing is your background. Given that you're Chaldean, what I liked when I was learning about you was that you started discovering how astrology, the connection with Chaldeans and astrology, and that had you look further and further into your own heritage, and that
Definitely.
they were really gifted
Oh, yeah.
and that kind of stuff. So tell me a little bit about that, because I think a lot of people, well, more people now, especially in Michigan, are aware of Chaldeans and a little bit of their ancestry, but actually, I don't think they understand that the depth of the astrology that was writing was invented in ancient Mesopotamia, and tell me a little bit what you found when you were looking into that history.
So what I found when I was looking into that was super, super interesting because I was talking to my dad about it, who broke it down for me in ways that I could understand. It's all on the internet, it's all on Wikipedia, and it's all out there for everybody to understand. But basically what Chaldean means is a star mapper. So we are the original astrologers, and they were the first ones to break down everything in a planet house. So they were the first ones to break up everything into the 12 different houses and into the 12 different signs. And so when I figured that out, I was like, there has to be some sort of depth to this. There's so much ancient knowledge here. And if it's something that we still continue and carry along present day, people are still biting on the idea of astrology. There must be something more to it that kind of makes sense in a way that people are using it to apply to their day-to-day life or their activities moving forward.
Yeah, so I really respect the fact that you looked into that, and also to see, how can you use it yourself to help people, because that's
sure.
really what you're doing.
Yeah.
And it seems that you have that in you in other ways. I know that, we had talked, when was it when we talked and you were getting ready to go to Greece at that time? Was that like a year ago?
It was I think it was about a year ago. It was around this time, February or March. Or
Really?
like
Oh my
yeah,
gosh, yes. And we said,
wild.
it is because at that time we said, oh, we need to meet in person.
Totally.
Well, here we are.
Totally.
It took, this TV show, which is good though,
It's
because we get
perfect.
to, it is perfect. We get to speak about something I actually really love. I love work, not so much just for the fact of working, but I feel like when you're doing work that's meaningful and it's with service tied into it. I know when you called me, and so you majored in journalism, you graduated from Oakland University, and you had at that time you were planning a trip, like an internship type of thing, to
Yeah.
Greece
Yeah.
to work with the refugees, and I was really impressed by that.
Thank
Because with all the things going on, but you actually to physically take yourself and go there at such a young age to even make that decision. What was that trip? Well, first of all, why did you even decide to do that? What drew you towards it?
I had an opportunity to pursue a career in something that I knew wouldn't really go anywhere, but this kind of presented itself in a way that this is like a once in a lifetime thing. And so I was like, okay, well, do I go with the one that I know I can always come back to, or do I go with the one that I know I might never have the opportunity to go to ever again? And so I ended up choosing Greece. Primarily because I had grown up in a community, the Chaldean community, where there was such a predominant refugee population. And so I had seen this my whole life. And my grandpa was always bringing people over our house and helping bring people over to America. I would go into my grandparents' house and like have to kiss a random person that was my new cousin for the week, because they were helping take care of people. And so shortly before he passed away was right when I was ready to ship off to Greece, and I was telling him about the work that I was doing and what I was continuing, and he was kind of in a state where he couldn't really speak and he couldn't really move and he couldn't really do much. But in the moment where I told him I was able to move forward and continue his work in a way and to give a voice to the people that don't have one, he woke up. And he opened his eyes and he gave me a kiss and he gave me a hug. And it was something that was so meaningful to know that the lessons and the things that he had taught me my whole life was something that I was going to carry and move forward and use in my life one day. And so that's really what drives me.
Well, that is so touching, especially because I know your grandfather. When I was a kid, I'd go to your mom's house, and he was young at that time. This was like over 30 years ago. So I'm going to show some pictures. I'd like to, if you can explain a little bit about what these pictures are up there. This is during your trip, right?
Yeah, so...
Yes.
This right here is Moria refugee camp, and it's referred to by a lot of different newscasts as basically being a modern-day refugee camp. And this actually took place right after a riot. And this was a holding area for people to come in to eat their food, things like that. And one man, a Haitian man, he was denied asylum on appeal. And so basically what that means is he tried to get some sort of asylum to stay in Greece because the country that he's from is in war or is at a place where he needs to seek refuge, but they denied him. Greece denied him because they couldn't figure out like why he needed that asylum for whatever reason on his second opportunity asking for it. So it was on appeal. And so as an act of rebellion, the people from his village or group that he mainly stayed with burned down this entire holding area. So we were walking into that the day after it happened, and no people were allowed to go in or out, and it was very tense. Like, it was scary. So
yes, and when you hear stories like this, because yesterday I was watching on PBS a program about refugees and how certain people in certain European countries are starting to change their rules or sending them back, and like the story that you just told me, you feel for the refugees and you want to help them, but you also understand the conflict within other people wanting to feel safe, or it's really a lot of them because they experience trauma and they'll end up doing certain things. So, but seeing that, there's I'd like to see other pictures that here. What's going on in this picture?
Yeah, so being a part of the Chaldean community, I wanted to focus my mission on figuring out how the treatment of Christians were in the refugee camps.
Okay.
And so this is me just demonstrating, this is who I am, and this is, I'm from a Middle Eastern country, trying to find common ground with someone else.
What kind of flag is that? Do you know?
It's the Assyrian flag.
The Assyrian flag, yeah. That's what I thought, okay.
And this man that's in front of me in the yellow shirt is actually a journalist himself, and he was from Mosul. And I was like, well, that's very interesting. My grandma comes from there. And, let me find out more about this. What can you do to help me? And he was able to direct me to a Christian teacher that gave me my interview for my story.
Oh, cool.
So, yeah, it was really cool.
So you have, I think, one more picture. Let me see if I can go to that. What's going on in this picture?
So here I'm with the teacher that I was interviewing, and this is where she lived. So I'm deep inside of her living arrangement. She was in a bunk bed that she shared with another woman that she barely knew, and she's letting me enter her living space so I can show really the world how these people are living and how they have to escape something so brutal and so terrible that this is all that they're left with to find comfort and solace in.
I mean, again, for such a young age, for you to see all of this, how did this change you?
It really, really put a lot of things into perspective for me. It really helps me figure out, like, things that I want versus things that I need. There's a huge, huge differentiation between that. And oftentimes, in the world that we live in, especially being millennials, like, we're very impulsive. Like, we want things right away. We don't have as much patience as a lot of people. And so for me, I was always ready to make my next move. I was very forward thinking, but this kind of taught me, like, you got to take everything as it comes, step by step, because nothing is going to come when you want it to. You have to just be aware of your situation and gauge it appropriately so that moving forward, when and how to make the right moves in the right situations.
And you don't understand how powerful this lesson is. I mean, this is a lesson, even for me, each time I learn a layer of it, then I realize there's still that impatience, and then you get another layer of patience and another. But with each layer, you realize you actually get so much more done, and you can live more at peace, because if you're just trying to do things for the heck of doing things and getting really antsy about it and kind of aggressive, it really defeats the purpose.
Definitely.
When you do it with patience, you get so much more accomplished. You can actually even help yourself. You can help others a lot more that way. And so now we go to your business, which I can't wait. The tarot reading. Too. Yes, I'm really excited about this, because I don't know if your mother had mentioned anything, but I studied previously with Native Americans, and my first spiritual teacher was a man from India. And then my second teacher was a Native American man and his spouse, and they did these teachings called Sikkim and Reiki from their homes, and it was an 8-month program. It was amazing. And most recently, best-selling author and mystic, her name is Linvy Andrews. She doesn't live here, but in Arizona and California. I was in her 4-year shamanic school, mysticism school. And so for me, sometimes I think that people they don't understand the power of spirit. I mean, when we pray in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, and it's part of the spirit is such an important part that we need to nurture, and it's part of our sixth sense. And I think people misunderstand really what it's about. In your case, it seems like you've embraced that about you.
Totally.
From what I heard from from your mom and her husband, this is not even an issue, and that's great. I think that's another great aspect with this generation is that they can do that. They're not afraid, to step into their roles or their callings. But I would love to experiment with some
Let's
of
get
that.
started.
Okay, let's see.
Do it. So, usually, what I'll have you do.
So this is...
We're using the Wild Unknown Tarot deck.
Okay.
It's a pretty good, basic beginner's deck.
Okay. Cool.
And I'll just have you shuffle to your heart's desire.
Okay. Gosh, I can just do a show with you every week.
I was telling my mom, does she need a co-host? Because let's do
Seriously,
it.
I could do this like every week. Like, let's read these.
Yeah.
Or actually, even for the guests would have so much fun with this. All right. So, do I pick a card now?
Whatever. Just shuffle whatever you want.
All right. So, I want to pick a card. Let's see. Okay.
Oh, interesting. This is perfect. So, let's see what we're going with here.
So, let's show this to the audience. If you can you hold it up? Just hold it up so that...
So this card is the Six of Wands. And as you can see here, this is, I would say, very representative of what we're doing right now. This is something that achieves a lot of social recognition. And with this being the first card that you pulled out, it's kind of like we call it like a hero worship card. And basically, you're putting something out there to the public, and people are receiving it, and people are loving it, and they're putting all of that praise right back into you. So to pull this card to begin with, I'm like, this is perfect. This is exactly the realm that we're in.
I just got goosebumps. I really like that.
This is exactly the realm that we're in. This is perfect,
blessing,
right?
good energy. Yes,
Totally. Bottom of the deck, I usually use this as like a shadow of like what we're working with, and this is the Mother of Wands, so it's someone who has a lot of concentrated energy and a lot of passion behind what she does. So
what is that? Mother of what?
Wands.
Mother of Wands.
Yeah,
okay.
and that's this is what I like to call the shadow. And so this is kind of like the underlying theme within what we're about to do. So what I'm about to do is just a basic Celtic cross, which is very common in tarot readings. It's one of the easiest and most understood spreads that you can do. You have your you, and then you have a block, which right now we're pulling as the Judgment card, which judgment can be anything. It could be your own judgment. It could be judgment of the public and what they might think. And then we're going to look at past factors, future factors, and then the factors above, factors below, external, you right now, hopes and dreams, and then the outcome card. So a past factor. Okay, interesting. Ooh, are you in love?
Well, I'm married. So, yes. And my kids. Does it have to be like when you show cards like that, for instance, I'm just curious. So when you say something like that, so is it always on a romantic level, or let's say like if there's kids involved, are there different cards when it comes to the love as a mother type of thing and as romance, or?
So I think they just present themselves in different ways.
Okay.
I think that they can also be very thematic to just the entire vibe that we're picking up. Mm-hmm. So right now we have the bottom of the deck being the Mother of Wands, and then our spread here, an underlying factor is the Son of Pentacles. And like I like to call my little brother, I tell him he's this guy all the time, because when he sees a goal, he sets it, and then he just keeps making his way until he gets to that goal, and then he sets another goal that's just a little bit higher than that same one, but he keeps making his way. So it's a very, very steady process to get to where you need to go. The only problem with this guy is he's a problem thinking outside the box sometimes. So there may have been in the past you felt some kind of sorrow, not really as much freedom in being able to express yourself or having that oneness within yourself. Maybe even sometimes having a hard time using that judgment on yourself. Because right now, there is something... So people, when they see this top card, get a little bit intimidated because this is the Devil card. And you're like, oh, God, the Devil. Like, nobody wants the Devil in their life. But this can be a card that is indicative of a lot of passion, maybe keeping it in one place for a little bit too long. So it's a very like addictive energy. It looks like in between all of this, there was some sort of sorrow in the past, some kind of heartbreak. I personally like to say that I always want to see this card come up upside down, because when it comes up forward, you're knowingly kind of stabbing that part of you. You're putting that into your heart. But when it comes up forward, you're aware of it and you're able to take it out when it needs to be removed.
How did mine come out?
Yours came out forward. So this was in the past, though. This is like a past energy. Okay. So it's an energy that you're leaving behind. Something that just like made you sad, may have encompassed you with some sadness. There's a romantic in your life, though. There's someone who definitely loves to... who just gets you, someone who vibes on your level, someone
my
who
husband.
Just like, yeah.
That's how he ends up keeping me staying with
totally.
Every time we fight,
and
he hasn't figured it out.
There's a super, super deep love for him, but that love like sometimes can manifest itself in a very passionate way. So we have to be careful of letting that love overcome as an addiction. But you have this energy in you right now, which is very stable. It's the Two of Cups. Like, you see such romance in this card. These are two people cheersing, like, ready to go. Like, they have that vibe. Those roses are very indicative of,
my
like,
husband needs
romance.
to get you a gift. Because right now, I'm upset at him. And then you're reminding me, because this is how our relationship, we're both very passionate. But we know we have the same fundamental, right. Definitely. So he's very lucky, because every time, like, if I'm mad at him at something and then something happens, just to, trigger that, just like this. So, I'll tell him to get you a gift.
That's so funny. That's so funny. So, but that is good because it stimulates you. You love that creativity. Like, that's huge for you because, like, as this fire sign, like, you want something that's constantly moving you. You need that stimulation, that constant, like,
That is so interesting
Yeah.
because honestly, and I know you're still reading this, but can
Go
I
ahead. Yeah,
give
by all means.
feedback?
I'd love to.
Yeah, so I actually had read the reviews that you had on the website, and I I'm the kind, I really don't make judgments, even though I just I don't know what things are until I see them. The one thing that I was curious about, I'm thinking, well, at her such a young age, sorry, but this is how
No,
it is, because
definitely.
that
I get
with
that all the time.
yeah,
No,
with
ageism is,
older,
yeah,
right,
for
you
sure.
there's usually like the more experience at it. So I was curious, and honestly, and I'm gonna of course let you continue, but honestly, you've so far really did a good job, especially with regards to this relationship, because
Yeah.
like how would somebody know? I mean, some of the other parts, and there is true that the sadness that this and
He's kind of boring sometimes, isn't he?
who
Your
my
husband?
my husband, he's very like, he's a businessman.
Steady.
And yes, he's very steady, and I'm creative. Like I want to just,
Super creative.
right. And so we actually balance each other out that way, but sometimes it's frustrating for me because it's like, but to describe that, never having met him, never having met me before, so I have to give you a lot of credit for that.
Thank you.
I really
Thank
do.
you. I
think
appreciate
you
that.
did such a good job.
Thank you.
Really, like explaining that,
Thank
because
you.
that's I was curious to that. What was it you were gonna say that would trigger me to know? And obviously, this is it, because it's something that you have no idea about it. So
Right, definitely. That's awesome. Cool. Thank you. I appreciate that. Knock on wood, like nobody's told me I'm wrong yet. So
Okay,
we'll see how
great.
it goes. Or they've always, like you said, something's always triggered something for them where they can relay what I'm saying back into basically the reflection that's on the table. And what I like to tell a lot of people is this is often, it's not showing me like what everything is going to happen to you in your lifetime or anything like
You're
that.
not a fortune teller.
Right, no,
Yes.
it's just a reflection of your mind. And it's showing me a picture inside your head. And with that picture, we're moving toward a desired outcome, which here, this is a beautiful outcome. Like, there's a lot of passion and a lot of energy in this reading, a lot of wands cards, and a lot of cup cards, so there's a lot of emotional aspect to it, too. But this is building something lasting. Like you can see in this card here, there's a lot of energy behind it, but there's also a containment behind all of this color and all this energy and where you're putting it. And I think with having this growth and having this build up to something, like there's something that's going to come out of this that I think you're going to it's going to put you in a very stable place.
Now, are you talking with regards to work, something work related, or are you talking about relationship, or just where I'm going overall?
I think overall, I would
Overall,
definitely say,
okay.
because like you have a lot, like there's a lot of passion in here and there's a lot of movement forward, and you guys do have that clash because you're coming across as someone who is very fiery, and he's coming across as someone who's very laid back, someone who's more chill, who
Very structured.
yeah, but has those romantic tendencies, can be creative in his own way. But those two energies don't necessarily mesh well all the time, which is where you can get these flare-ups and where you can get these like these outbursts and this like sometimes negativity, So with that in mind though, I think this more generally speaking works towards you guys building a very solid future within your family and creating something very lasting for your children one day. And the reason I say that is because threes are typically unions. They're a collection of people who come together under one, I don't want to call this a roof, but under one passion. And so if there's ever been any kind of, maybe, I don't want to say lack of support, but maybe he wasn't like super into all of the stuff you were doing, or he was just kind of doing his own thing, and you felt like someone wasn't on the same field as you, and they just didn't get it. Like this, like is just telling you that you need to use that judgment back onto yourself. You don't need to put it so much more out there onto him or onto another person, because it's just going to create some kind of pain that doesn't need to be there. And you want to get to a place of stability, because when you recognize how those emotions are affecting another person, because you're very in tune with each other regardless. You're very, very in tune with each other, positively or negatively, which is great. You want that in a relationship at the end of the day. But there can be times where you hit these rifts and you guys may pull up stuff from the past that, like, you want to use against each other or whatever, you know, like, and that's... Nobody
I feel like so naked. I'm like,
No,
I feel like you were in our kitchen.
I should have warned you. Like, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, now when you come to my house, you'll be like, oh, I've been here before. No, I love it. I love the fact, I mean, I'm a very open person, and I think actually that has really helped me, not only in my marriage and my relationships, but even with my work. I'm very honest. Like, if I'm going through something, I won't be like, oh, things, you know, are so, everything is perfect type. I'm not that kind of a person. I'm just, you know, so I actually like that you are that talented, that you can tap into that. I like that. I really admire it. I just think that, yeah, it does require a talent.
Yeah.
I will be coming back to you.
No, I'm glad this is resonating with you.
And
That's
I really
amazing.
encourage people, really. I mean, I do spiritual work in a different way. And a lot of times I mostly work with writers. But, you know, we all use our different techniques depending on what we're gifted in. But these sometimes help us put things into perspective. With family, there's issues with once people know you too well and they already have a prejudgment with you and with your spouse, or even sometimes with your work. And I believe in, that's why I think I got involved in so many things and I've paid for them, is because I believe in hiring professional. Oftentimes I tell writers, you know, they cut themselves short because they don't own their craft. They don't pay to get the service that they deserve. So I think with this kind of work, it's really worth it for somebody to invest in themselves, you know, especially if it's somebody like and honestly, I mean, this is the first time we've met in person, except when you were a little girl, which doesn't count. But is there anything that you can say regarding my work before there's I wish there was a longer time I could have you go.
No, definitely.
But regarding my work, I think you mentioned a little bit earlier, but is...
This here, what I would say is you're somebody that's going to continue. Don't let other people's judgment of you get in that way, because publicly what you're doing is going to gain you the recognition that you want and that you need. And with someone embodying this personality, with this being the shadow card and the Mother of Wands as a personality, it's someone with a lot of gusto. So when someone sits down in front of you, you just feel that heat emanating from them. They have a goal and they're ready to accomplish it. They have another goal, they're ready to accomplish it, but in a different way. It's with a lot of passion, with a lot of light. They're bringing a lot of energy into what they're doing, and it's expelling in ways that it's catching fire, so to speak. And I think whatever you're doing right now with all of this passion behind it, one of your worries is maybe losing control of it, letting it get the best of you. This is like the passionate portion in its infant stage. And this can be a hope. It can also be a fear. This is kind of like a tricky placement to read. But I almost took it, too, as like you have a daughter, correct?
Yes.
So I almost took it as like you having her follow in your footsteps, or having her maybe somehow, because with this outcome card and the three of you, I just took that as like, okay, well, if there's another factor, this could be another character, because she's already coming up as the mature entity within the reading.
Okay.
And so like this, like I wouldn't worry about anything that you're doing right now, with this being your vibe and this what you're working towards, and this being just like stability among all of that. Like, you're killing it, you know, you're totally killing it.
I love you. Here, I'm gonna blow you a kiss. Thank you so much. That was really cool. Especially, I mean, this is the end of the night. You know, a little bit tired, and this really woke me up. Check out her business, seriously. It's
SalemsVision.com.
Visions, yes. Don't, you know, just do it. This was really fun. Thank you so much. Absolutely. I'm going to have you back just for the reading itself. I'll be inviting you to my house.
Perfect.
Okay, well, thank you for watching.